This is the emergency broadcast system. The CDC is advising that you stay in your home.
We show up. We show up in the party, flyer than everybody. We show up in the party, flyer than everybody.
We show up in the party, flyer than everybody. We show up in the party, flyer than everybody. We show up in the party, flyer than everybody. We show up in the party.
We show up in the party. We show up in the party. We show up in the party. We show up in the party.
So, hello and welcome to another video. Yes, you've probably guessed where I am. I'm back on the Fenlands and I'm on Willow Lake. Now, I've had a good walk round today. Originally, after that last session, obviously peg 20 was in the back of my mind. I wouldn't have minded to have got in that swim, but the only other angler that's here is situated in peg 20, so that's that ruled out. He is struggling, however. He's done a night already, and he said he's lost a fish, but that's the only occurrence he's had. So I've come right down to the opposite end of the lake. I'm in swim 11 here. It is the corner swim, and the thing that I'm quite interested in is this reed line to my left, and this is the deep end of the lake as well. So you know, it's good. It's got winter form, this area, from what I've been told. Since that last video went out, I've been to and from in a few emails to a guy called Simon, and he's ticked a few boxes for me and given me a bit of information on the lake, which we'll touch on that in a bit more detail later. And he has told me that this end of the lake has got winter form. And not only that, I bumped into Mike today as well, and he congratulated me on the session that I had last time, and he's also told me that there is 2 other 40s left in here, and that fish that I had is a new 40 for the lake, so really promising that. And there's still another couple of fish to go at, and one in particular really takes my fancy, a fish called Frisbee. Really old fish, that a character fish as well. It'd be nice to get acquainted with him, but we'll have to see how it goes. Not only that, the reason I am down here is it's the only place I've seen fish show. Whilst I was stood in peg 20 talking to that guy, I seen 2 fish bosh out in front of this swim. So I made my way around here with the bucket, dropped the bucket in the swim, and whilst I was stood here looking, one nutted out as well, and everything's been nutting out quite close in. So I've seen 3 fish now, and probably the maximum distance is about 8 wraps. So I'm going to investigate close in. I've got a lot to do. I've not fished this swim before. I mean, conditions, it's really good conditions. It's a low pressure, bit stormy at times as well, but it's going to remain for the duration of the session. And you know, if I go by previous sessions, then fish tend to switch on to a low pressure anyway. So yes, I've never fished this swim before, so I've got a bit to do. I've got to have a little lead about and see what I can find. I'll be obviously looking for a bit of clay if I can find it, and I will be investigating that reed line. So I'm going to stop waffling on, rig the rods up and see what I can find out there, and we'll have a catch up in a bit. Well, that took a lot longer than I'd hoped for, but it took me a while to find some spots out there, and to be honest it's quite uniform. It's very silty and sort of an average depth of around 9 to 10 foot, and that's out in the main body of water. But what I did to begin with is I got the deeper out. In particular, I wanted to put it down that reed margin. I wanted to check, you know, whereabouts the drop off was from the reeds, and about 2 foot off the reeds is where it starts to drop off, and it very quickly drops off into 7 foot, and it's 4.5 foot on top of there where I've got my rod positioned. So yeah, once I'd had a quick look around at the depths, I took the deeper off, and then I commenced having a lead about, and the spot on the reed line that I've chose is a gravel spot. In fact, they're all gravel spots. The 2 open water rods, I've got one at 8.5 wraps. Now that's quite a big gravel area. And then my right hand rod, I've got that at 7 wraps, but that's quite a small gravel area, that. And it is quite a tricky cast, especially with the mesh, with the PVA mesh on. You know, I've had to go right up to a 5-ounce lead to be able to feel it down. You know, when you've got them mesh or a solid bag on you cast out, it really slows it down. It's sometimes hard to feel that lead hit. So to combat that, I just put a 5-ounce lead on, and I can still feel it when it hits that spot. So yeah, I'm fishing 3 different spots, and since I've been setting up and having a lead about, I have seen another couple of fish show out there. In particular, that rod that's fishing at 8.5 wraps, there's been a couple of fish show over that area, so I'm feeling quite confident. Yeah, so I've gone against spodding on this session. I'm not going to put any bait out there. I'm going to rely solely on the solid bags and the mesh sticks. The only reason for that was, I think last time when I was here, I got more of a response from the solid bag rod than I did the open water rods. Yeah, I still picked off a few fish on them open water rods, but on the last night in particular, I didn't get a bite on either of them. It was all on the solid bag rods. In my mind, I kind of think there was backing off the sound of the spod. I don't know that for certain, but we'll see. It's not going to hurt anyway, because you know, we had bites just fishing solid bags last time, so hopefully we'll get a repeat of that. I've gone in with the same rigs and the same bait on this session as last time. A supple rig for my solid bag rig, fish with a Nash pinpoint claws. My open water rods, I've actually ditched the fluorocarbon, and I'm just fishing the Nash combi link straight through, but there's a section strip back, so it still acts a bit like a combi rig, although it's just one material straight through. And on them I've actually got the Corda size 6 wide gapes. And bait of choice is the good old faithful TX1 banana and pineapple. Yes, they certainly have become one of my favourites, the TX1 banana and pineapple. I've just got so much confidence when I put them out there, especially come late autumn, winter. It's a really good bait. I think them classic flavours always come into play, but in particular from the isolate range anyway, it's the banana and pineapple that I favour this time of year. Well, this weather looks like it's set to stay. It keeps chucking it down every now and then, and it is overcast already. It's just gone 3 o'clock, and believe me, it feels more like 5 o'clock with how dark it is. So we haven't got that much time left really before we start to lose the light. And this swim is quite a tight swim really. It's going to make filming a little bit tricky. And not only that, if we catch a fish, it's going to make landing it a little bit tricky as well. Yes, it is rather cosy, let's put it that way. But this is where the fish was showing, so you have to be where the fish are. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling, and we'll have a little bit of a catch up later on. Get in there. Well, I just don't believe it. How's your luck? It's just gone 5 o'clock, so the rods have only been out a couple of hours and we've got one. And just before this, I had a bit of a funny occurrence where the bobbin, I had a couple of duduts and then the bobbin touched the rod and stayed there. And I just lifted into fresh air, so I don't know if I got done on that or not. But I changed that rig and I actually shortened the rig slightly, put it back out there. 10 minutes later it was away again, and it's a bit of a unit. It's £34 too. I just cannot believe the season I'm having. It's unbelievable, completely blown me away. Oh, here's a nice mirror. Real short fat fish this. And as I predicted, it gave me a right merry dance under the rod tips because the margins are so deep and it's tight. Yeah, it really did cause me a bit of havoc, but I didn't wipe the other rods out. Anyway, enough waffling, let's get him out. And there he is, look. Oh yeah, what a fatty. Real solid fish that. He's angry as well. Oh, made up. Pineapple and banana, doing the trick. Little PVA mesh stick. And it come off the small gravel spot, the one at 7 wraps. Which really, it's just off of where I seen the few fish show. To be honest, I thought if I was going to get a bite, it'd be off the 8.5 wraps. Oh, and there we go, look. Oh, cracker. Oh, I'm made up. I just cannot put a foot wrong this season. They keep coming. Oh, yes. Buzzing. Wicked. Let's slip him back. Oh. Well, I've got to apologise that I've not managed to speak to you until now, but it's only been 40 minutes since the last fish and the same rod has just gone again. I'm really glad that I took my time, you know, finding them spots earlier. I mean, it wasn't easy to find that little gravel spot, and it's that spot that's done the bite again. You know, it's always an iffy one when you move on to showing fish, whether you know, put a bit of effort in or just chuck a solid bag out and hope for the best. But after knowing, you know, past sessions in here, how they like to feed off them clay spots and the harder spots, you know, it's really paid off. And this one is an absolute cracker. £38 on the nose. I just can't believe it. I really cannot. And here he is. What an absolute chunk. Oh, wicked, man. I'm buzzing my tits off, I really am. Oh, what a beast. I love this lake. I just cannot see me wanting to do anything else with my time other than catch fish like this. How can anybody get bored of fishing like this? Oh, and there's the other side. Oh, buzzing. I'm gonna have to stop saying buzzing, but I just can't believe it. Oh. Oh. Real solid fish, and I tell you something, we knew we had this one. It absolutely ripped off one toner. Oh, he's heavy. Wicked. Oh. Oh. Let's slip him back. Yes. Well, it's been a good couple of hours now since I last spoke to you. and I've got all the lights lit up in the bivvy. It's just gone 10 o'clock now. I've been sat here. I have had a couple of occurrences, but nothing else has happened since that fish. But you know, I've not really been paying attention. For the past couple of hours I've been on the phone to Derek the Don. He rang me up and we've been chewing the fat, and I tell you what, that time absolutely flown by. Derek, he's a top geezer. I absolutely love Derek. I hope I'm as nuts as him when I get to that age, and I hope the fire is still there. I have a huge amount of respect for Derek, and I love it when he rings me up. He tells me some right stories. I could sit and listen to him all night. But anyway, whilst we was on the phone, I did have a couple of liners, but nothing has happened. So yes, I'm getting ready to turn in for the night, but what I thought I would do before I turn in is just recast that rod, because you never know, them couple of liners could have been something pecking at the bag or whatever. So I just wanted to go to bed, you know, 100% confident that I'm fishing. So I recast that, and I put a bit of a bigger bag on this time, a large mesh bag. It was probably about a good 3-inch long, you know, so there is a bit of bait out there, so I can go to bed happy. But as we sit here now, it has gone quiet out there. I did hear a couple of fish lumping out to the right in the distance, but the last hour or so I've not heard anything lump out. It's like somebody's just flicked a switch and all the fish have just gone into hibernation. So fingers crossed, you know, something materialises through the night. You know, it's got good form down this end for the nighttime bites anyway, and so far, you know, although it's only early afternoon when we've had the bite, it is still in complete darkness, so it's still true to what I've been told anyway. I tell you something else what you pick up on fishing different lakes is you always tend to find that the deeper end of the lake always does the better fish, but less of them, and so far that's ringing true on this lake. So you know, another mega result, a brace of 30s in only 3 or 4 hours of fishing. I'm absolutely made up. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, the results I'm having at the minute. I know I keep saying it, but I have to pinch myself sometimes to see the results that I've had. And that 38, that was a real solid fish, that. It just lacked a bit of length. I tell you what, if that was a long fish, that'd certainly be a unit, that. But again, you know, the characteristics are all the same. Them newer stock of fish that are in here, they're all short and big fat things. You can tell they get through the bait. So yes, I'm going to turn in for tonight. We are all set though. I've got you know, a couple of solid bags made up. I've got a couple of mesh sticks made up. So fingers crossed, if we get a bite in the night, you know, we can get that rod straight back out there, you know, and try and capitalise on any sort of feeding spell that we might see. So I'm going to stop waffling on now, and hopefully the next time you'll see me will be with some Carp action. Good morning, and it's been a very quiet night, I'm afraid. Apart from a liner just gone midnight, the bobbins have remained motionless. But the conditions, you know, they're not great this morning, although we've got a low pressure and we've had plenty of rain through the night. In fact, that's what woke me up this morning. No ripper, just the sound of the rain pattering on the bivvy. But we could really do with some wind. Yesterday was a total different day to today. When I arrived yesterday, in fact it's about the same time as when I arrived, and that's when I seen them couple of fish show in this area. But you know, I'm pretty hopeful for this evening. I do think if we're going to get a bite, it'll be, you know, similar sort of time to what we got the bites yesterday. Just gone 5 o'clock. I am going to slightly change things tonight. I don't mean as in like the rigs and the bait, they're going to remain the same. But the rod that's on the reed line, I've had no action at all on that rod. And to be honest, I've not seen anything in that vicinity at all. I mean, in my mind, I half expected a few fish getting in there, you know, especially when you've got deep water and reeds in deep water, you know. Sometimes the fish get in there and they like to hold up during the colder months. But I have not seen the reeds knock in, and everything that I have seen has all been out to the right. But this morning, the only sign that I have seen is a little bit of fizzing, and it's a bit further out than where I'm fishing. It's sort of in line where the right hand rod is, but it's further out. It's around about 10 wraps. Now I know from having a lead about out there that that is the silty area, but I think it's worth moving the rod that's on at 8.5 wraps on that gravel patch. I think that's worth moving it over out to 10 wraps to where I've seen that fizzing, and then I'll move the reed rod and put that to where the other rod was fishing at 8.5, just to see if, you know, we can capitalise on it and, you know, make something else happen. It's alright having one rod fishing, but we'd like to get, you know, a couple of bites going on both rods, or all 3 rods, you know. That'd be the ideal situation. But it is scratching, and we are up against it with these conditions. Although it looks cock on, it's not cock on. We really do need some wind. I mean, on pen and paper, it's ideal conditions. But I do think there's a good chance of a bite this evening. Yeah, I do feel pretty positive. I've got a bit to do today. The weather's making it hard work though. I have had a recast this morning though, just to make sure I've got a bit of fresh scent out there. I mean, what I was kind of hoping for was to see the odd fish show. Now we're approached that time when I arrived. But there was definitely on the wind when they were showing. First things first though, I think it's breakfast time. I'm starving, absolutely starving. I'm gonna have a streaky bacon wrap. And make the bacon really crispy. Bit of ketchup, job done. And then I'm gonna shift the rods over and just make sure I've got everything prepped for this evening. Because it was a bit of a short window really. It was all like within a couple of hours. So I do want to make sure I'm all set for that. And not only that, I need some gaps in this weather to get a bit of B-roll footage, you know, a bit of cinematic stuff, because at the moment I'm struggling for that. Bivvy bound, and like you say, with the swim being so confined, it's hard to get the tripod anywhere apart from in the bivvy. Yes, so breakfast, sort the rods out, bit of prep, and then we'll have a catch up in a bit. Well, we're coming up for 1 o'clock in the afternoon now, and as you can see, we've got a bit better weather conditions. Well, for me anyway, not for the fishing. But that said, I've just lost a fish. Left hand rod, I did move them over. Left hand rod on the solid bag, it ripped off. I mean, it was a real quick take. It ripped off, I ran out the bivvy, got to the rod and it stopped going, and I thought, hey up, is it on or is it aborted? Have I been done? And I'm stood there watching the rod tip. I couldn't see anything happening. Anyway, I picked the rod up, lifted into it, and as I lifted up, the line had kited right round, and it had gone over to that reed line. However, I lifted up and I did feel the fish, but it was already into a branch. The fish actually come off, and I reeled the branching in the end. So I'm a little bit gutted as we speak. But I'm sure we'll get another chance. Although the conditions are not looking good for it now, I'm sure we'll get another chance. Anyway, this next part of the video is a request from one of the viewers. So Lazy Carper, this is for you. He's been commenting and asking how I do my nighttime photography. He's interested in seeing how I set the camera up and what lighting I use. So as you can see, that's the setup from a distance. You'll notice how close the mat is to the camera. The camera itself, I've got it right down to 18mm. That enables me to get closer to the lights, and you'll also notice I've got two bivvy lights there, the Ridge Monkey ones. They're both on the highest setting, and I've got one set a foot below the lens and one set a foot above the camera. Now for the pictures, I just have the bottom light on, and I take the microphone off the top of the camera, and the flash deals with the rest above. That way you get no shadow. And the reason for having both of the lights is when I do the video, it's very hard for me with the camera that I'm currently using. It's a Canon 650D. It doesn't autofocus, that camera, and I have to manually focus before I start the video clip. So what I have to do is I have to put a couple of buckets behind, because I need something to lock onto. So I use a couple of buckets stood behind the mat. I get it focused in, and then I put both lights on. The reason being, if you just have the bottom light on, the shadow from the bottom light, it sort of cuts your neck off between the fish and you, and all you can see is your head and the fish. That's something that I've only just cottoned onto, to be honest. And now I'm stood behind the back of the setup, and you'll notice I've got a backdrop. You need a backdrop to bounce that light back off towards you. It's no good doing it into nothing. See, if I set the mat up, say there on the track, and I've got no backdrop behind me, there's nothing for that light to bounce off. So you get it, the pictures become very glary, and you get more shadow on the fish. Like you say, with the backdrop, it bounces the light back towards you, and it just creates a lot less shadow. So there you have it, Lazy Carper. That's my setup and how I do it. I hope that helps you. Just bear in mind, you have got to have an half decent camera, and also it's got to have a decent flash on it, and you'll be well away. Good evening, and it's coming up 3:45 now, and already darkness is nearly upon us. It doesn't help with the fact that it's overcast and raining. I reckon we've got around about 20 minutes of light left, and so far it's looking pretty lifeless out there. conditions are good, but you know, it's still against us. However, I have been sitting here and I've checked the weather app, and we are due to get a bit more wind, which I do think is going to help. The only negative to that is it's blowing up the opposite end of the lake. Now yesterday it was blowing into my face, but it was a lot milder yesterday. The temperatures have dropped this evening, and we're down to 5 degrees today. You know, so it's quite chilly. You can already see the mist coming off the lake. But I do think there's another chance in it. And we have had another bite, although we lost it. But that means I've got 2 spots working for me now. The middle rod, I actually put that out to where I seen the bubblers. It's fishing in the silt, that. And I'm still yet to receive a bite from the silt in this lake. But you've got to react to what you see. It's better than, you know, it just sitting there and doing nothing. So yes, I've got one out. Well, I've got them both out on the gravel spots, but obviously I'm really confident for that one at 7 wraps, the small gravel spot. That really did serve me well last night. Fingers crossed for a repeat of that. Other than that, the only thing that I've done differently is I've switched them all onto solid bags rather than using the mesh sticks. The only reason for that is because I left my refill at home. I brought plenty of bags with me but forgot the refill. Bit of a donut, but never mind. Well, I tell you what, when you spend time on the bank, it don't half cheer you up. No matter what the weather is or the results, I just enjoy getting out. It's been a pretty bad week for me, to be honest. I purchased a camera off of Gumtree. Well, I say purchased, I paid for it and it never turned up. And the guy that I'm buying it off seems to have disappeared off the face of the planet. So that's been playing on my mind all week. I've had to contact the police and Gumtree, and I've had to open up a case with Action Fraud, and it's, you know, it's really been doing my head in all week. And anything like this, I don't know if anybody's been scammed before, but it's the first time I've ever been scammed, and it's not looking like I'm going to get my money back. Alright, that's the way I feel anyway. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they managed to get the person. But I paid by bank transfer and it's obviously gone into somebody's account. Surely they must be able to recover the money somehow. So yes, pretty gutted about that. But I suppose it's only money, you know. But you know, I'm just dying to get a new camera. I really am, to push the videos onto that next level. I've outgrown this camera. It's time for me to progress and, you know, try and bring the videos onto the next level. And I can't do that with the equipment I've got. I do my best, but, you know, sometimes making do's just not good enough. Anyway, less of that negativity. It's more about the fishing than my life. The first bite I received yesterday was around about 5 o'clock. So I am sitting here now wondering if anything's going to happen. Even though it looks lifeless out there, it only takes, you know, a second or two and things change. It's usually on this witching hour where you start to see things come to life, especially in here. It does seem more of a night water. The chap that was in Peg 20 come round to see me earlier. He's packed up and left today. He managed himself a 25-pounder, so he went away happy because he said that he lost 2 fish, and it was 2 fish on the bounce. So to land the one after that result, you know, he was pleased with that. I was in a quandary whether or not to move round there because, you know, after the form I've had in there. But given the fact that, you know, I've had 2 bites and 2 30s, I just really think there's a chance of a bigger fish down here. So I'm going to sit it out. I tell you what, I've just been looking on Google Maps and it's actually surprising the amount of water that's around me at the moment. There's some really good lakes, got Home Fen just down the road, Erith Lakes, and a couple of other lakes that I've not heard of. I tell you something though, I'd really love to live in this neck of the woods. It certainly offers up a few good waters, a lot of big fish waters around this area. I mean, you've got Peterborough on the doorstep, Cambridge on the doorstep, Huntingdon, you know, there's loads of great waters around here. It's sometimes hard going up the north where I'm from. I mean, I'm not right up north, you know, it's not as bad as most. I mean, that chap that I was talking to earlier, he's made his way down here all the way from Middlesbrough. That's some effort, that is. But there's not that many good waters around me. I think, to be honest, the closest water to me that's got any sort of form with big fish is Cromwell. But it's a little bit past its sell-by date for me, that place. It's lost a lot of the good fish that reside in there. And it's gone through quite a bit of change with the blue dye and the maggots that's gone in. Yeah, even though it's on my doorstep, it just doesn't tickle my fancy. I mean, there's A1 pits, but I've done a bit of time on the A1 pits. You know, that's where I learnt a lot about carp fishing back in the day when I moved over from the match lakes onto the carp scene. Incidentally, that's where I caught my first 30-pound fish from. But other than that, you know, Eric's Willows and Old Mill Lakes, they're sort of the big fish waters that are within driving range from me anyway. Cracking waters. But I've said it before and I'll say it again, I absolutely love this lake. It's a cracker, it really is. Plenty of half decent fish to go at, and plenty of character fish. In fact, the chap I was speaking to through email, Simon, he identified that fish that I had with a lump on the side as a fish called sticky rib. I didn't know that, so it's one of the old originals. Anyway, I think I'm going to kick back and sit here with everything crossed and hope that one of them rods rips off. Hopefully I shall be seeing you very soon with something carpy. Well, good morning, and what an uneventful night that was. I really am shocked nothing has happened. It was about an hour after I spoke to you last night. It was coming up for around about 5 o'clock-ish, and one boshed out right over my right hand rod, and I was sitting here thinking, oh yes, we're gonna have one, it's gonna be a repeat of the night before. But then that was it. Absolutely nothing showed after that. I've not received any liners all night. It really has been a bit of a grueler this last 24 hours. And yet condition wise this morning it is absolutely pucker. We've still got a nice low pressure, it's overcast, the wind's not that cold, and we have got a good bit of wind as well. I mean, it's been very changeable all night. I've been up and down probably 3-4 times in the night, and I always sit and have a listen and watch what I can see, and the wind has been every bloody direction going, let me tell you. But, you know, that shouldn't affect the fishing that much. It's a small lake. I can't help but think that fish that I lost yesterday afternoon has got something to do with it. I'm kind of thinking, you know, they've got me sussed and they've backed off with the pressure. I mean, you might have noticed where I've got my mat and everything set up on the bank. That's because after every fish, where possible, I like to return them in the next swim down if I can. And it's been possible on this session, that's why I set my mat up between the pegs. But when you lose a fish, you know, you often find that it can sometimes spook the swim. I mean, I'm not saying that has happened. This morning what I've actually done is the middle rod, I've wound that in, put a solid bag on, and I've pumped it out, right out into the centre of the lake. That's just to give me some sort of indication as to what's going on, to see whether the action's just slowed up or the fish have moved off. I've got that set on a semi-slack line, and that's really just fishing for liners, just to see whether or not they've backed off or whether it's just a lull in the action. It's often something I do, you know, when your back's against the wall and you're struggling and you're searching, trying to find something. You see an option of moving, it's not on the cards. I've only got a couple of hours left. Otherwise I would be heading up to peg 20, because there's a possibility they could be held up in that no fishing zone. That rod's been out an hour now, and I've not picked up any liners on it. So they've either backed off or the action's just slowed right up. But, you know, we've got a couple of hours left, and hopefully that rod will tell me something before we go. It's all about piecing it together and reacting to what you see. But I really thought this morning, especially with that wind on the lake, we'd see a few fish show, and I've not seen anything show. And I've been up since 7 o'clock, that's when it starts to get light, and I've been watching. I mean, with that ripple, it's been hard to see if anything is feeding. I've not seen no signs of fizzing. But, you know, it's still been a really good session. Them 2 fish I have had, they're the ones you want to be catching. So it's been a blinder nonetheless. And sometimes a hard session is better than a good session. Yes, you definitely learn a lot more from struggling. Well, I do anyway. Yes, I'm always thinking. And already in my mind I'm planning where I'm going to go on the next session and what I need to do. Well, that just about brings you up to date of where I'm at and what's been happening. I shall have a little bit of a catch up with you before I go, if nothing happens in the meantime. So until then, I shall speak to you very soon. So that is it then, I'm afraid. It is that time to pack up. The long rod that I put out, I haven't had any indications on that neither. So, you know, I'm kind of thinking it is just a bit of a lull in the activity. But, you know, it's told me a lot, that rod. I'm glad I put that out there. You know, it really helps trying to put that puzzle together. but I will be back in a couple of weeks' time to see if I can trip a few more of them up. And I am actually out next week as well. I've got a tuition next week with a guy called Eric, and we're going to Norton Disney, so no doubt the camera will be coming along with me, and I'll filter a few bits and pieces into my next video. Well, it's time to start making that trip home then. But on the plus side, I've not got any work for the next couple of days. It's my anniversary in 2 days' time. And while we're on the subject of anniversary, my wife has played an absolute blinder. Here's one that'll make you laugh. We've been married 10 years now, and she told me it was our diamond anniversary. So I'm thinking, alright then, we'll treat her, we'll get her something nice. I buys a diamond ring. And I goes into the card shop to buy a card, and I'm looking all over. I eventually find a card that says diamond anniversary on it. Only says bloody 60 years on it, so she's royally had my pants down there. So I gets her phone out, Googles it, and it turns out it's tin and aluminium. So what I might do is I might play a trick on her first. I might give her a can of beans and a card instead, and make her sweat, make her think that I haven't got anything nice. That's women, I suppose. So just one last thing before I go. You might be watching this thinking, oh, I fancy a bit of PVA fishing this winter, but you might need to stock up. Well, courtesy of Castaway-pva, they are offering any of my viewers a 25% discount from their website. So if you are interested in that, the link's in the description below, with the discount code which you'll need to put in before you check out. Right, so on that bombshell, it's time to wrap up. I'll see you all again soon, and happy hunting. I hope you all catch what you're after, and I'll see you again sometime.